Okay, cool. So today's call, Tuesday topics. It's a pre-recorded one, just because I know that it's for context, it's Christmas Eve. And the topic today is bouncing back after the holiday. So obviously all of you will be watching this on YouTube, anyone who's not part of the program, and you're watching this, hopefully this is a nice little resource for you to bounce back because I know how hard it can be going from December into January. Most of us have a momentum, we're excited for the New Year's. And a lot of us will start new goals, but that's not the same as bouncing back. That's just an excitement. Bouncing back means you actually have to have been in a place where you wanted to be before to then get to where you want to be, in the future. So this is actually regaining the confidence, not starting something new. And yeah, I mean, most of all, I hope we've all had a good year, New Year's, and yeah, let's see how we can take this lethargic energy or this kind of mindset of holiday and relaxation and really push forwards with things. So the first one, if I can find myself, is procrastinating or procrastination. And this is probably like the key one, especially now in December going into January, is thinking about not doing something. Not doing the stuff. And what I always say is nothing is still nothing. So we all have excuses, we all have our reasons why we don't want to do something, but by definition, doing nothing is nothing. Okay. I can say that I didn't go to the gym because of X, or I didn't go for a run because of this, or I didn't track my food because of this. Okay, cool. And like anyone who works with me, I'm understanding and we definitely talk about the psychological side. But guess what? There's also just the plain and simple fact of you still didn't do the thing. So don't be surprised if you don't get to where you wanted to be because you didn't do the thing. And it's the procrastination of doing the thing. Why don't you want to do it? Maybe you don't see it as valuable. Maybe you don't see it as something that's worth it. And then that's where we come to the small wins, celebrating the small little things. You might not see the value in tracking, the little penguin bar that you had, or you might not see the value of tracking just the meal deal that you had on the side. But that's exactly what prevents you from being where you want to be and being where the 2025 version of yourself is going to be, because that's what the 2024 version was. So that's just one example. And obviously, whether tracking or whatever is part of your goals or not, or some sort of food, you can apply that same theory to whatever it is. Oh, I didn't track the workout, but at least I showed up to the gym. Well, that's all well and good, but guess what? You still didn't track. And by the way, if you didn't track, you probably didn't pick the weights that you could do. You're not progressively overloaded. And when you then go and look back on the results, or you look back on the past 6 months and you go, oh, I don't feel like I've changed, maybe that's the reason why. So procrastinating on doing the small things and not celebrating the small things enough, because it's the small things that lead up to the big things. So procrastination, just get to doing the stuff because doing nothing is still nothing. And the whole I'll do it tomorrow is still not doing it today. If you keep saying tomorrow, then before you know it, congratulations, you're in 2026 and you've achieved nothing. And that's not a reflection on me, that is a reflection on you because you haven't done the thing. So that's on procrastination. Celebrate the small wins because they are worth something and they do lead up to big things. And actually start to do something. Obviously, there's excuses. Obviously, there's reasons why we don't do things, but nothing is still nothing. And I think that is the key message for that. Next, moving on is motivation. So objects in motion stay in motion. And according to Newton's first law of motion, that's exactly what we're talking about. So the last few weeks, maybe the last few days, for any of us that took some time off, or for any of us that stopped training, objects in motion stay in motion. So when we're on the ball, when we're doing our thing, we're always moving in the right direction. Some of us, when we completely stop, it's so much harder to then get back into the motion. So that's why I've said there, get the ball rolling, think about why you started, and you've got two choices. There's two pains, and there's pain of discipline or there's pain of regret. And you get to decide what that's going to be. Is it the pain of discipline, waking up at 6 a.m. or getting to the gym at 6 a.m.? Or is it the pain of looking in the mirror and not achieving what you wanted to look like, or not wanting to achieve the weight that you wanted, or not being able to lift the weight that you wanted? You know, for 90% of the people that are watching this, you've invested in a coach, you've invested in yourself, you've invested in your health. Why then go through the pain of regret to have spent that money, or to put your investment, your time, your energy, and to not then go through the pain of discipline to then only see regret. So you get to choose which one that is. And I know that that can be quite harsh. It might be like, oh my God, like I can't believe like this is being said, but this is things that we all need to hear. It's things that I hear. And it's things that I need to think about as well. So it's not a pointing finger situation. It's not like an individual situation. These are the two pains that we have to go through, whether it's your job, whether it's your family, whether it's is it the pain of discipline or is it the pain of regret and not being where you wanted to be or where you envisioned yourself. And again, like that is a reflection of the small things that you do and the procrastination of not doing those things. So let's get back into motion because objects in motion stay in motion. So and that's the thing is like, and to put it into another context, like obviously that's a car holding its brakes, slamming on the brakes. Is it easier? And maybe this is a reflection on yourself. Are you the driver who, if you can see the red light in the distance, are you the driver who speeds right up to the traffic light and then slams on their brakes and then has to go back into first gear, restart the car? Maybe you stalled because you've been acting erratic. Or are you the person who drops the gear, slowly heads towards the traffic light, and then by the time you've got to that stage, it's then orange, then green, and guess what? You never had to pull on the brakes. And it's exactly the same with your fitness journey. Are you someone who was able to slow down, do a couple of workouts, and then maybe this might not be, maybe because we can't talk about the past, we can't change the past, but we can reflect on what happened in the past, and then we can bring that into January. Maybe January is still a really busy period. In my family, we've got all of our birthdays in January. It's just crazy. So realistically, the whole of December and January kind of feeds into each other. So am I going to be someone who speeds towards the red traffic light and then slams on their brakes and has to restart? Or do I go, okay, cool, I'm going to drop the gears a little bit. I'm going to keep the ball rolling. I'm going to stay in motion because objects that stay in motion, goals in motion, stay in motion. Or am I just going to completely stop and then have to restart the car, get back into gear and start all over again? Not efficient on petrol. So, and again, a waste of money again. So it's just like which are you gonna do going forward? If you get to January, if you get to the first week of January, you lose motivation, which hopefully you're not going to because we've got an amazing, thriving community at the minute and you've all been fantastic. But if you do get to that stage, what are you gonna do? You're gonna completely stop, or are you just gonna slow down and make sure that you are just doing the basics? You've spoken about 80/20 before, going into that low power mode, making sure you're getting at least one or two workouts in a week, just your bare minimum to still be moving and achieving something, but not completely stopping. Routine. So this is something that's completely been shot, probably been thrown out the window. For some of you, I know like everyone's got their two minds, like, and everyone's allowed to have their opinions on Christmas. Some people have completely stopped their routine. Some people have kept it and carried on like nothing is different. Obviously, we all have different, not everyone celebrates Christmas, not everyone does Christmas the same. So it's just that's fine, that's cool. But your routine might look a little bit different. Now, that routine might look a bit different because you've been listening to other people. You're being told what to do. Oh, you should be taking time off for Christmas. Oh, it's New Year's. Start again in January. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And not in a rude way or not in a judgmental way, but listening to people who are behind you. And it's not behind you as in terms of you're better than them. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is if you're on a health and fitness journey and, you want to be world's strongest person, you're not going to listen to the person who's the world's fastest swimmer. Okay. So listening to the wrong people and people who are projecting their views on you. It's okay that we have different opinions. It's okay that we have different way of seeing things. And sometimes we need a well-rounded, balanced life, and we need, I always say, like a council of people around us who have different opinions. And it's up to us to then be able to decide what we want or need. But when you're surrounded by an unbalanced council of people, when you have an unbalanced opinion, when you have someone who's always in your ear telling you the opposite thing of what you want, that's not serving you. And to be fair, there's not really a lot of excuse to have that when you have a community at your disposal and when you have a coach at your disposal that you can message and you can communicate with and that will support you on your journey. So if you've got someone who's always like, oh, it's Christmas, it's okay, you can have the extra drink and again, I always say in moderation, that's okay. But that's going to be the same person who says the same thing on Boxing Day, who says the same thing on the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. Oh, look, we're at New Year's. Oh, guess what? It's January. It's okay. Don't worry about it. January doesn't start until January the 6th. Yeah, we've all heard that person. Is that starting to ring some bells? Because guess what? That then feeds onto you. And then guess what? You then have to restart the car. So it's about surrounding yourself with the right people. If you haven't been engaging with the group, guess what? The people who have been engaging, getting involved in the community have all been absolutely smashing it by no surprise. And the people who reach out, message me, communicate, and people who have the right people around them tend to see and achieve their goals much quicker than those who don't. There's nothing worse than I remember being in a situation and having a similar conversation with my coach 3 years ago, different coach. He would always ask if I shared my goals, if I told my family, if I told the person that I was in a relationship with, and I'd always say yes, but I didn't. And there's nothing harder than working towards a goal without people around you knowing. And if people who don't support or see that goal or see this vision of yours, if they don't see that, then are they the right people to have around you? Especially when it comes to health. And I think with fitness, it's almost not a question, especially when it comes to health and your mental well-being and how you're able to show up for other people. If that has an impact, or if that's impacted by your fitness and your health, then surely you'd want them to know so they can help and support you. So then they're not sitting there. So you have to take accountability from the people around you as well and making sure that they understand what journey you're on and where you want to be. And I was just listening to something a few minutes ago, and it was about this and, and the people who are around you and keeping friendships. And what was said was, if someone said, "Oh my God, you're so much like your friend," would you take that as a compliment? And I think that's just so true. Like, if you're someone who wants to be super fit and you enjoy fitness, it has to be intrinsic. If you're someone who enjoys your fitness, enjoys going to the gym, and you're on a weight loss journey, are you going to be happy, or are you going to be thrilled, or are you going to do you see yourself being going in the right direction if the people you're closest with or the people that you're around are people who don't care about that, or people who don't value that, or people who just want to sit down at the sofa and watch TV and not control their calories and overindulge and don't care about their health. There's always that thought of, hang around four smokers, you're more than likely going to be the fifth. So again, not saying that you have to completely cut ties, but maybe just reducing time with the people who don't respect you. And I think that's where it comes from as well, is actually valuing yourself. It's so much easier to think about other people. I don't want to let other people down, but guess what? They're letting you down. And you need to prioritize yourself, especially when it comes to 2025. 2024 has happened. 2025 is about creating a person or a version of you that actually cares about yourself and hold yourself to a high enough standard that when people don't want you to be where you want to be, you just leave them behind. And that's something that I experienced in 2024. I've lost quite a few people and friends, and I've had quite a few opinions thrown at me. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, cool, like that's actually okay. That's okay because I know where I'm going. I know where I want to be. I know what I want to achieve. Respectfully, you can be where you want to be. And, it's about moving on. And guess what? I'm so much happier for it. And so many other things have come off the back of that as well. So usually when you start to focus on yourself, everything else kind of comes round and, the universe has this weird way of rewarding you for that. But just being wary about listening to others and what's around you and using the community, the group chat, myself to your advantage. So then you get what you need out of what, your goals are. Next one. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And that's a quote that I shared in the chat the other day. I don't know why the T is so far away from the dome, but there you have it. So you don't have to start. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. So what does that mean? What's that saying? So we always have this big thought in our head. We always have to think, oh, okay, now I have to go on this 6 day a week routine. I have to, I have to start tracking my calories. I need a sports drink before I go to the gym. I need a protein drink after the gym. I need to make sure that my meals are timed and, I have to take this break at this time at work. And when I'm on break at work, I have to read a book and just relax. Okay. I know some of you are starting the 75 hard. Which is fantastic, and it will develop some good habits. Um, but just remembering, you do actually just have to start, and you will get to greatness. Don't be afraid if one day you don't hit a thing and you have to restart the 75, because guess what? You just had to start the thing to be great, and just by doing 1, 2, 3 days, you're already on the road to being great. You don't have to be the fittest person ever. You don't have to be someone who's insanely in shape. You don't have to be, you know, someone who's completed 75 times, 75 hard 3 times to then say you're going to start it again because guess what? They never started, but they had to start at some point as well. So don't put yourself down. Again, maybe going back to the self-love, don't put yourself down. Don't think you're not good enough because everyone started somewhere. Okay. Not everyone got to. Maybe you're on the treadmill in the gym and you're kind of looking at other people or thinking about, what they're doing. Don't um don't worry about where they're at, just worry about yourself because maybe you're starting again, maybe you're getting back into the routine. It might not be where you are, but it's certainly not a reflection of where you're going to be. So action, what are we actually going to step away with today? Because it's all well and good talking about this stuff, but what do you need to do now? So I've caught up with everyone who's actually like 90% of people who are on the online program. Because obviously this is kind of what we do. We've set our goals for January the 31st. We know exactly where we're going. And we've spoken, I've had some great conversations. Anyone who's kind of on the PT side, we can kind of talk about that and discuss that during the sessions. But for yourself as an individual, it's all well and good that we do stuff and I'll hold you accountable. But as yourself and as an individual, and for that intrinsic motivation, you need to create yourself a goal for January the 31st. What is it going to be? Is it going to be, working towards a certain thing at work? Is it going to be spending more time with family? Is it going to be your meal prep? Is it going to be reaching a certain goal? Um, Create yourself a smart goal, something that's small. If you want to go through smart, then off the top of my head, I'm not even going to think about it. It's going to throw me off. But create a smart goal, something that's achievable, something that you're able to do, something that you can measure, um, and have it on a post-it note. Put it on a post-it note. Use it as your home screen. Write it down somewhere. Have it, whatever. Write it on a mirror. Whatever it is. Make sure that you can see that goal every single day going forward, because that's where you're heading. Having a growth mindset, so not being afraid of missing a meal prep day or not being afraid to miss something and going, okay, cool, nice. That was a challenge. I'm going to bounce back and it's fine. Because guess what? Missing a day or, maybe you didn't, and again, especially when it comes to the 75 hard, maybe you didn't read the book or maybe you didn't get your second workout in. Cool, challenge accepted. I'm going to start again. We're going to go again. Growth mindset. Stop getting to a hurdle and then being afraid to jump or, you know, like jump, let the foot lag, maybe you fall over and you go, okay, cool, at least I tried it. Now I know I need to jump higher next time. Like stop being afraid to just jump or take that step because without that you'll never get to the end and you'll never get to where you want to be. So take on the challenge, don't be afraid and develop that growth mindset. Track progress and celebrate wins. So you've all got access to the fitness app, you all have workouts. Just fucking use it, okay? Like seriously, like when it comes to workouts and tracking and let's just keep it real simple. I can change a workout every 6 weeks and just to keep it fun and interesting and change it up. The person who does the same workout for 52 weeks of the year, or the person who has a workout changed every 6 weeks, will still make the same progress if they're progressively overloading and they're actually tracking what they're doing. They know what they done last week, they're increasing their weight. And they celebrate their wins. If they get a personal best, they're sharing it with their friends, their family, the group chat. Um, they're celebrating for themselves. They're like, okay, yes, cool. I might not have achieved that today, but I achieved that today. And guess what? That leaks. So, once let's say you work out in the morning and you achieve that goal, you then go into work, you're in a good mood, you then have a good day at work, then that leads into the family. And I've always said a good morning is a good evening, a good evening is then a good day leads to a good week, and a good week leads to a good month. Celebrating wins is so important. I'll continuously talk about this because I don't think until everyone starts to do it or they really get it driven into them, you won't see the value. So making sure you're tracking your progress, you have access to the app. The app is great at telling you, if you've increased your volume, if you increased your weight, and you have the ability to then be able to push that extra weight as well because you can see what you've done the week before. Like if you weren't on top of your tracking, make sure you do it now. And again, it doesn't matter if your workouts are changed every 6 weeks or you're just doing the same thing every week. Progress can still be made just by tracking and celebrating the wins. Habit building, make sure, and this is something that we're talking about and we're going over the yearly check-ins and where you want to be and anything you want to focus on is habit building. So, picking 3 habits that you can stick to. Habits can then be integrated on the app. So that's something that I'm working on. And ticking off your habits. So again, for those of you that's doing some sort of 75 hard, it might be reading a book, it might be meditating, it might be doing some stretching. Um, Building some good habits that you can incorporate on your work or in your routine. So if it's a workout, having a stretch routine before. If it's reading a book, put the book on the pillow. So when you get into bed, you know you've got to read 10 pages. If it's maybe before you go into a shower, you do 10 push-ups. If the kettle's boiling, you do 20 air squats. Whatever. Start to build some habits and just get used to it. Pick three, keep it simple. I've seen most of the habits that you've selected. I'm going to get back to everyone. But for those of you that haven't or you're watching this, habits, just stick to them and get used to them. Recovery and me time. So maybe in 2024, you focus a lot on working, 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 whether that be your job and then whether it be some fitness. Maybe you didn't have enough me time, you burnt out, you hit a wall, and you just struggle to progress and get to that next level. Let 2025 be a year. I feel like, especially after COVID, especially after some of the things that we've learned, especially when it comes to being open and mental health, actually just use the time to go, okay, cool. Like I'm actually not going to rush towards a particular goal, especially if you watch the New Year's plan. Um, Recovery and me time. I'm going to focus on some me time. I'm going to read the book, which counts as me time. I'm going to spend some time meditating or, reflecting or spending some time doing gratitude is going to be so much more sustainable than the person who just goes hard 24/7 because eventually you crash. And I speak from experience. I'm sure that you have, like, if you're listening to this, you've probably experienced some sort of burnout, or you can definitely relate, or you've seen someone, or you know someone who's experienced that burnout. That person who works 24/7. You're going to crash at some point, and it's so much harder to completely slam on the brakes and stop rather than just slowing down and keeping it consistent. So that relates back to the car. So walking away from here, January the 31st, think about who you want to be. If you have a conversation with yourself, with the person who you are now and the person who is in January 31st, what conversation do you want to have? And, if you want me to be transparent, um, January 31st, the Sean that is going to be speaking to the Sean that sits here is going to go, Sean, like honestly, you had a great time in Iceland. You traveled a little bit more of the world. You're now 25. Happy birthday. You're a lot more mature. You're reading the books that you got over Christmas. You spent some time reading. You've been doing more runs because you weren't focused on your runs. It was mostly training and fitness training. You're still keeping up with your workout plan. Well done. Congratulations. Um, you're doing well. You've found a good, healthy balance. And again, that kind of goes off the recovery and me time. You found a healthy balance, weekends. You've taken some time to step away and focus on yourself and your goals and your personal life. And then Monday to Friday, you've actually been able to be more present for your clients and you've been more present for your business and, the job that you now do. So congratulations. And that's the conversation that Sean will be having on January 31st. You might go, that was absolutely bonkers, Sean. I don't know what you're doing, but guess what? I'm going to be having that conversation and I'll be having a similar conversation with Sean on February the 28th or 29th, whatever that seems to be. So focus about where you are on January 31st. Think about who you want to talk to. And that wraps us up for today. Hopefully today's helped. Any questions that you have, let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment below, or if you're part of the coaching group, pop it in the chat. Also, celebrate your fucking wins. So if you have had a win, or that was our pillars from before, um, or no, fuck that. Share your SMART goal. So share the goal that you're working towards on January 31st. Put it in the chat. Let everyone else know what goal you're working towards for January, where you're going to be, and let's see what everyone comes up with. Let's see what everyone collaborates with. If you haven't watched this, then I'm going to know because you didn't share it in the chat. Anyways, Happy New Year's, everyone, and I'll catch up with you all individually.